Hello, World Typology welcomes you. The 6th of July, 2020. What is mentality? 8 innate groups of people. What is mentality in brief? We noticed that all people belong to 8 innate groups. Why? Because they have different stable life views that form the features of their mentality. These groups were found by world typology authors on practice. Each person belongs to only one group for a lifetime. All these innate groups of people have completely different, constant life preferences, and I will name you all these preferences a bit later. 8 innate groups of people were discovered by us using typological method. Such method was built with the help of counting and preliminary analysis of facts taken from the environment of different world countries. Facts include architecture, historical facts and events, rules and mentality of nations expressed in their massive behavior and cultural thinking. These facts were compared by logical analysis with such theoretical phenomena as innate type of thinking, ITT, temperament, and category. What is mentality and why it is different? Mentality is such phenomenon that is dictated by different innate preferences of people. These precise preferences are important for all groups of people, and ignoring them or their absence brings such people moral discomfort or causes aggression. Therefore, such innate groups are stable, and their stable preferences are the main factors that influence the mentality, environment, and rules of each country and region. Now, here's the list of innate groups and their needs and preferences. Group number 1. We call this group patron. Such group usually has principles, they have straightness, but they do not have generosity. They are shrewd and calculating people. Each patron sometimes can be kind person and respectful to some people, but at the same time they are very demanding people who may have a lot of pretensions to others. The characteristic and life preferences of each patron that form their mentality. First, individual mental development. That means reading books, development of libraries, science, and discipline. They like job contract and prestigious salary. They like equality and the freedom of word in politics. Next is fairness and responsibility in the work. Prestigious views of the streets and their cities. They like visa-free regime between different countries in order to work and to do a business trip. They have respect for nature, the presence of parks. They need free higher education. Availability of theaters and cabaret. The presence of street lights, fountains, and chapel. Their city architecture resembles hotels in Rococo style. Also, patrons prefer chalet, French style, Cubism, International style, Palladian, Gothic, Manueline, Zondergothic, modern style of architecture, Mannerism, Futurist. These people like quality work of police. Availability of political opposition parties. The president from the innate group of patron is solving concrete problems regarding the control and the appearance of their cities. They need a legalization of prostitution and gambling business. Patron also needs a total control over alcohol consumption and drugs. even low alcohol drinks. They prefer payment with cards, online payment, and electronic legal contracts. Innate group number 2. Virtue. Virtue. They do not have principles, they do not have straightness, but they usually are generous people, so they have generosity. Affability is their need and obligation. Collective work is a pleasure for them, and doing some good is a habit. These people are ready to support all people inside of their country without any compensation. This is due to the fact that they don't have any innate needs in living a luxurious life or rich life. That is why you may notice that they are quite simple people who don't need a lot of wealth and money. They realize only the profit of living in a united and wealthy country. Virtue are the typical patriots who create and preserve their own deep native culture and traditions. They respect the borders. A habit of doing good for people and animals is caused by the call of their soul and innate mentality. Here is the list of their innate life preferences. They need a vegetable garden, usually a small one, in order to grow their own plants or birds. They care for animals, availability of territory for animals and zoos. They like zoos. The fences around the houses are prohibited, and prohibition of buying a land for a private property, especially around forests, lakes, meadows, and natural spots. Affability as a duty. Free rest camps for children. All personal ideas, copyrights, and patented inventions belong to the country and nation. They love free general secondary education. They also allow availability of diverse kids clubs like clubs of planting trees, art club, mosaic, dance club, construction club for children, etc. They have a connection of traditional architecture with their church and traditions, all in one. They usually like to work in public places. For example, creating flower beds on the city streets and its maintenance, creating mosaic on the streets and tiles on the street. Presence of payment, flower beds and benches on the streets of their town or village or city. Development and diversity of an agriculture market. These people are fond of small agriculture markets in their town or village. They love when the police is on the side of their nation and people. Such police should punish the violators of the national rights, spoiled or dishonest tourists and hooligans. Ruler of the virtue group is usually like a chief who solves all the problems of his nation and country. They respect union with many countries, but they want the strict saving of national borders. Legalization of alcohol drinks. They like low-rise houses, usually less than 3-story building, with balconies that have a view on the streets of their town. Virtue group prefers such architectural styles like minimalist, Spanish, Italian, chateau, Pombeline, Roman architecture, city garden, ethnic, Queenslander architecture, European, Japanese, resort architecture, and these people prefer cash and barter as a payment. Group number 3. Pharaoh. We call this group Pharaoh And this group has principles, they have straightness, and they have generosity. Aesthete and prestigious person who loves life. Unlike patrons, people like pharaohs always try to find their place in this world. They care much about what everyone thinks about them. That is why they usually think about their own reputation and appearance. Therefore, pharaohs try to wear some nice clothes and look after themselves. In fact, these people have innate need for prestige, nice car, boat or yacht, house or mansion, etc. And additionally, they have a well-developed desire in looking for external variety of hobbies and interests. To illustrate, each pharaoh has a character of a monarch or sovereign who is responsible for people inside of his or her house. Unlike patrons in virtue, these people don't take part in charity, because they don't know whom to trust exactly. But despite such an image, here are the main innate life preferences of each pharaoh. No fences around the houses and mansions. These people do not like fences. Free, wide, smooth and straight roads. Developed tourism and technology. Systematic renovation of an architecture and great variety of building materials in shops. Quality services and products that are thoroughly checked by commission according to the standards. Respect for the law, strict working hours, availability of insurance. They need a chief only in some rare occasions. Professional trained army is only for protection, where soldiers consistently receive salaries and bonuses. Death penalty for those who committed brutal murder, no matter if a person has mental illness or not. Long vacation after work. Quality medical system. Flower pots with plants and sculptures on the streets. Supermarkets with great variety of food and other goods in one place. They fond of clean air and ecology. They would like to own a house, mansion or palace close to the nature, for example in the woods or near the ocean. They have constant contact with nature. They need legalization of marijuana. They prefer such styles in architecture, like Victorian architecture, Tudor architecture, Empire, Cape Cod, Neo-colonial, colonial architecture, Biedermeier, country, barnhouse, loft, Art Nouveau, neoclassical architecture. Such people prefer online payment and paying cards or electronic legal contracts. Group number 4, ethnos. Ethnos group, they do not have principles, but they have straightness and generosity. The behavior of ethnos can be rude to some people sometimes. Then it may change later to kindness, especially for people like themselves. Also, such people have a willing to live a luxurious life. For example, some representatives of this group can be even more rich in reality than pharaoh group. Again, the abundance of expensive food, clothes, premium class cars, and a big house are not modest things. But each ethnos wants to own them and change it often as possible. Moreover, they take all these things and try to combine them with their patriotic style and traditions. As a result, each ethnos pretends to be a simple person, but in reality they are living a wealthy life. Here is the list of their life preferences that form their mentality. Free public transportation and developed roads. Availability of a car parking on the streets. A great variety of clothes on a marketplace. Textile factories that produce clothes, carpets, and curtains. Adherence to religious holidays. Painting of buildings and houses. They raise their own livestock and availability of cheap meat. Presence of governmental subsidies that help farmers to survive on the market and buy machinery for a discount. Availability of places for hunting and fishing. Competitions during the holidays. They like sporting events with animals, like boxing, etc. Availability of clubs and disco that have a village-style design and bar inside. Saving and protection the national symbols and language. It is mandatory for them to use a national flag on each building, including private houses. Lynching the person who breaks the religious rules and traditions. Legalization of sporting events like boxing, wrestling, betting business, etc. A chief ethnos should be a religious person who has a personal authority and connections with some other countries. They prefer prestigious buildings in such architecture styles: Fachwerk, German, Pueblo, Carolingian architecture, Renaissance, high-tech, Mediterranean architecture, Egyptian, Holland, Alpine, Greek. Ethnos need a total control over selling and consumption of drugs and alcohol, even marijuana. They prefer cash and barter as a payment. Number 5. Pilgrim group. Pilgrim, they have no principles, but they have straightness, and they do not have generosity. Each pilgrim seeks for their life goals during the whole life. What is their mentality? They can't imagine themselves without traveling. In general, they try to be private and serious people because they don't trust any strangers. Pilgrim is a person who tries to find a harmony inside. The joy of their life begins only when they get expensive things and wealth. In this case, this joy comes not only with the fact of obtaining such things, especially it comes with the fact that their social status becomes high and respectful. Pilgrims can act like fanatics in their life beliefs and views. By all means, they are great competitors to other people. To demonstrate a place of living of each pilgrim looks like almost the same as Pharaoh's in terms of style, but they have some differences in details. Here is the list of innate life preferences of each pilgrim. First, developed intermediary businesses. Saving the authority and their leadership positions and having silent dictatorship. A marketplace full of various decorations and dried fruits. They like dried fruits. Each person should have only one profession during his or her life. Strangers or neighbors have no access to other people's private property. Developed small business. Obligatory availability of restaurants. Presence of lighthouses. They like lighthouses so much. A freedom of action, absence of laws. The president pilgrim is a respected person and has a good sense of humor. Quality work of intelligence agency. Free visa regime between countries in order to visit the holy places as a tourist. An open civil market for weapons. Pilgrims prefer the architecture of such styles. Right style, Californian style, Art Deco, Norwegian style, Peter's Baroque, Nordic, Deconstructivism, Czech, Scandinavian. They prefer payment with cards, online payment, and electronic legal contracts. Number 6. Marxist. The group of Marxists, they have principles, but they do not have straightness, and they have generosity. Marxists are patriotic-tuned people and keepers of their own religion and culture. On the other hand, such people always look after themselves and their appearance. However, the Marxists are more open-minded people to fellow citizens than pilgrim. But unlike them, such people are very dependent on their politicians or ruler. Of course, as you may guess that all the Marxists prefer state monopoly on everything they have inside of their country. But if you try to play with their boundaries, be ready for a strong military answer. That is also their mentality. Marxists are the opponents of tourism in their country due to mistrust in strangers. Therefore, each Marxist usually is less hospitable person than other people from other groups. Moreover, their religion and spirituality is much more popular and spreading much faster in number of believers. Here is a list of Marxists' life preferences. First, growth in the number of factories. These people love factories. The protection of historical monuments and sacred sites. They need show and plays, circus and concerts. Availability and great variety of quality cosmetics. Free historical museums. Keeping the streets clean, as well as keeping clean their clothes and appearance. They like gazebos. They like to work on large state farms and fields using tractors and other heavy equipment. They like pension and food rations. Presence of army. Religion and church is connected with the politics. They have open dictatorship, and they like it. The presence of bureaucracy. They need a total control of weapon and closed civil weapon market. Their children are prohibited from playing computer games with blood scenery and weapons. Presence of slogans and on wall posters and signs. They like some public and private benefits, for example, using cards to use public transportation for a cheaper price. Conservation of architecture. Marxists prefer such styles in architecture. Finnish, post-Soviet, craft, Russian revival, Baroque, Nazi architecture, Swedish architecture, Russian, postmodern architecture, Narushkin Baroque, retrospective. They prefer cash and barter as a payment. The innate group number 7. Cognitive. The cognitive group, they have no principles, they have no straightness, and they have no generosity. Such people like to cognize themselves, their own health, and other people. Moreover, this cognition is usually very narrow and has a character of an experiment. Therefore, they are not interested much in other things in their life. Because they are interested in their health, they usually tend to trust various doctors and even unfamiliar people. Cognitives do not understand themselves fully, and that is why they are very dependent on their boss and authorities. Such people can work a lot only when their boss asks them to do that. To illustrate their home image, the majority of cognitives are usually careless about their things and clothes. This is because they cannot separate the necessary things from the absurd. That means that they don't have any innate need in everything material. But despite this, such people for some reason try to buy very expensive food, the latest design clothes, and other not cheap things. Here is their preferences. They like free consultation in everything. They like to visit forests and mountains, concerts or performance with body movements, availability of great variety of souvenirs, keychains, or fantasy toys at the supermarket, presence of media and news everywhere, availability of waste processing plants, available self-service such as public laundry, ATM, public kitchen, terminals, dormitory, garbage bins, and sorting stations. Presence of different signboards across the city where you can read about the rules of behavior and clues how to comply with the rules. They need modern, quality, prestigious sanatoriums. These sanatoriums should be free to visit for people who deserve it. Development of medicines market. Legalization of non-treatment services that have kind of medical character and non-treatment medicines. Public transport which comes always according to the schedule. The president cognitive allows his nation to do a lot of things and don't punish them for that. The punishment of children in order to educate them is strictly prohibited. They need a total control over any types of tortures and punishment, weapons, and unethical experiments on people and animals. Buying real estate, cars, paying for education, and other things using immediate bank loans with low interest rate. They like high-rise apartments and buildings. Cognitives prefer such styles in architecture: English, Georgia state, Romanesque, brutalism, metabolism, Eastern, Bauhaus, fusion, Elizabethan architecture, eclecticism. They prefer payment cards, online payment, and electronic legal contracts. And the last one group, the innate group of Toastmaster. Toastmaster, that's the group that have principles, but they do not have straightness and do not have any generosity. They are for sure the people of a family type who like to be social. That's their habit due to their mentality. And that's their true mentality. But at the same time, they cannot imagine their life without a holiday or a party. That's why they are always open-minded and sociable. But sometimes Toastmasters have a desire to argue with somebody. Of course, they are the patriots, and they listen to their nation and try to connect people. On the other hand, this is the most caring group of people to their own children. Each Toastmaster can travel with his family and nation to another lands or live on their own land for a long period of time. Moreover, they are not picky. This is because they don't care much about their own appearance, clothes, quality food, and wealth. That to say, as old people, they would not mind to get a high-paid job, but only for the purpose so that their family will have all necessary things and perspective to grow on a social ladder. Here is the list of their innate life preferences. First, presence of various holidays, carnivals, and celebrations. Absence of the politicians on national meetings and during performing rites. Free and accessible sports grounds and movie theaters. Availability of quality maternity hospitals. Prohibition of abortion. Philosophy, science about religion and astrology. Presence of kindergartens. Strict rules of hierarchy in family and dynasty. Free clothes in second hand. Work on public farms, in grocery stores and food processing factories. Presence of free canteen on a factory in public places. Choice of bride and groom by the wish of parents. Division of nation on small groups that have its own authority and judges from Toastmaster group. Legalization of punishment for adultery and ruining marriage. They prefer such styles in architecture, like medieval architecture, cottage-style houses, architect of Provence, ranch-style, bay and gable, Norman architecture, Indian, Indo-Saracenic, Mudehar architecture, architecture of Mauritania. They prefer cash and barter as a payment. Now you know what is mentality. As you can see, all 8 innate groups, they have different needs and preferences. That is why their continuous contact may lead sooner or later to constant conflicts or dissatisfaction with the life for one or more innate groups. We have also created a world map where we show which of the 8 groups is more dominant in a certain country or region in any country. Of course, this map is approximate, and you can find this map on our website worldtypology.com or in Web Archive. But now I'll try you to explain some parts of our world and just to mention the regions on the map where each of the 8 group dominates mostly. Let's start from the Western countries, especially from the North America. The whole territory of Canada mostly is dominant by cognitive group, and it is colored in yellow on our map. In some parts of Canada, like Quebec, near Montreal, there is a virtue group. And in some parts of Western Canada, near Vancouver, there is patron group. As we can say about what we can say about the United States is that the northwestern part of the United States, near Seattle and Portland and some part of Montana, is predominantly occupied or not occupied. There are people of Pharaoh group living mostly. In California, we have Pilgrim group. Central part of the United States, we can see the Marxist group there up to Philadelphia. The northern part of the United States, like Minneapolis and North Dakota, there is ethnos group up to Chicago. The Chicago region, the city of Chicago, we can see cognitive group there. In Arizona, we can see ethnos group and a bit of Pharaoh near Salt Lake City. The other parts of the United States, especially southern one, are inhabited by cognitive group, and Texas mostly by Toastmaster group. Florida is inhabited by Pilgrim group. New York City also by Pilgrim group, but the outskirts of the New York City and the Philadelphia and some other states like Massachusetts, they are green, painted in green on our map. That means that the virtue group is also there. The northeastern states of the United States, like Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, there is a lot of pilgrims. The group of pilgrim. As for the Mexico, it is mostly painted in green color, which means that there is a lot of virtue people, and we also have Marxist people there. Cuba is painted in dark green, so that means there is a lot of patron people, but now we can see also some virtues there. Haiti is pharaoh, and Dominican Republic is ethnos. Some countries of Central America, like Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and their neighbors, they have both the virtue group and patron group there. As for the Southern America, we can say that only Brazil, they have Toastmaster group living there, and maybe now we have some cognitives too, but mostly Toastmaster. In Venezuela and other countries of the northern part of South America, we can see ethnos group and a bit of pharaoh. The other countries of South America, they are inhabited mostly by virtue and patron group. Only the Chile, we can say that there is a lot of ethnos. As for the Greenland, there is not much population there, but we think that there is a lot of ethnos, pharaoh, pilgrim, and for the Iceland, there is a lot of pharaoh people and pilgrim living together. Now let's talk about Europe. In Ireland, we can see a lot of pilgrim group among the people living there. Great Britain is mostly cognitive group and a bit of ethnos. The countries like Portugal and Spain, they are mostly virtue group, but in Portugal we can also see some Marxist groups. Other European countries are mixed. For example, France, they have mostly patron group living in this country. In Italy, we always have virtue group, but some people from ethnos group are living on the southern part of it. As for the Germany, we have mostly Marxist group living there. Czech Republic, the same. Marxists are living there. Poland, also the same. Marxist group is living there. Some countries, European small countries like Croatia, Austria, there are a lot of pharaohs living there. If we say about southern eastern countries of Europe, like Balkan countries, Romania, Macedonia, Serbia, Bulgaria, these countries are mostly painted in orange color on our map. That means that the Toastmaster group is living there. The same can be said about Ukraine, where the Toastmaster group is dominating the region, and a bit of ethnos too. Lots of representatives of ethnos group are living in Greece and Albania. As for Turkey, there is a lot of pilgrims and a bit of ethnos, especially in touristic cities on the south. As for the Baltic countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, there is both ethnos and Faroe people. Norway is pilgrim mostly and a bit of ethnos. Denmark, virtue. Sweden, ethnos and a bit of Marxists. And Finland, Marxists. Belarus, Marxists. Part of Russia, mostly the whole territory of Russia, dominated by Marxists. And a bit of ethnos. Some people in Russia are also virtue group, but they are not the majority of population as we think. Such countries as Georgia and Azerbaijan, there is a lot of Marxists, we think. As for the Kazakhstan, both virtue and patrons are living there. The other countries of Central Asia, like Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, there are a lot of Marxists living there among the population, as we think. Israel, Faroe. Egypt, Faroe. And now we'll talk about Africa region. In Africa, the northern part of it is mostly occupied by virtue group like Morocco and other countries. The central part of Africa and the countries up to the south of Africa, mostly the whole territory, is occupied by the Toastmaster group and cognitive group. In some parts of Africa we can see Pharaoh and ethnos. For example, lots of pharaohs living in Rwanda and neighboring countries. There is a lot of ethnos too. The Southern Africa, like Southern African Republic, they have a lot of virtue, Toastmaster and cognitive group there. So mostly the whole territory of Africa is Toastmaster and cognitive. As for the countries of Arabian Peninsula, like Saudi Arabia and other countries near, we can see that in Saudi Arabia there is a lot of ethnos people. Some small countries like United Arab Emirates and Kuwait, there is a lot of Pharaoh people inside. As for the Asia, for example India, we can say that the most population in India is inhabited, of the country is inhabited by the Toastmaster group. Some parts of India can also contain people from virtue group and ethnos, especially on the south. China is mostly dominated and inhabited by cognitive group. Mongolia by patron group. Japan by virtue group, but it may change to patron later. South Korea is also virtue group. North Korea, Marxist group. As for the Southeastern Asian countries, like Thailand and other countries in that region, there are a lot of ethnos people living there. Some parts also contain Pharaoh, but the ethnoses, there are most of them. Philippines are also ethnos. Indonesia, ethnos. Papua New Guinea, both ethnos and virtue. As for the Australia, the most population in Australia are the people of the ethnos group and a bit of Toastmaster inside. New Zealand virtue, but it may change to patron a bit later. That's just an approximate map, and you can check this map again on our website. The map of 88 groups and their mentality was published in 2020. So as you can see, people are living now a bit chaotically in every country of the world. But is there a place for each of 8 group? Is there a nature that is more suitable for each of 8 group? And the answer is yes. We have created such a map and we'll talk about it later. The best solution is that each group should live separately and have their own mentality. And these groups should live separately in different places of the world. Thank you for listening.